Hello again, welcome to Study Canada International. For today's video, we'll discuss affordability of studying in Canada. We'll get to discuss the various aspects of expenditure involved to help you decide if this is for you or not. And I know a lot of people get discouraged when it comes to once they get to learn of the tuition fees involved. But I want to tell you that there are definitely strategies one could use to get around the expenditure, especially for those of you who will be paying out of pocket, and for those of you who will have no scholarship. Stay tuned. Welcome back, guys. So, when it comes to the expenditure aspect of studying in Canada, there are two main components to it, or I like to put it in two main parts. So, the preliminary and then the secondary. The preliminary expenditure is all the cost or expenses you have to incur while in your home country. And then the secondary expense is all the expenses involved once you have been approved visa and you have arrived in the country. So, in today's video, we'll start discussing the preliminary expenses, and then if we have enough time, we'll get into the secondary expenditure. But if not, there will be a future video to talk about the secondary expenditure and discuss strategies of getting around the expenses in between. So, when it comes to the preliminary expenditure, again, this is all the costs involved while you're in your home country. So, first of all, when you want to study in Canada, first things first, you need to apply to a school to gain admission. And what is the cost involved in that? So, that is typically between $95 to $150, depending on where you're applying or the school you're applying to. I haven't seen any school charge more than $150 for admission fees, but I could be wrong. Again, I haven't seen. Yeah, so I will peg that at $150 maximum for admission application. And remember that when you're applying to a school, make sure you're applying to a DLI school, and also ensure that you're applying to a public funded college or university, as that will be key for your postgraduate work permit application. Now, once you have gained your admission, the next part or the next step is to apply for your visa. The visa application fee, while applying for a visa, if this is your first time applying for a visa, you need to know that you will also be required to pay for a biometric fingerprint fee. So this in all comes together to about $235. And maybe this could be also dependent on where you're applying from, but generally it's around $235. So the visa application composes of the $150 for your visa application fee itself, and $85 for your biometric fingerprint. And in case you've already done the biometric fingerprints before in the past, you don't have to pay for it again because the biometric fingerprint is valid for a period of 10 years. And as I understand, it is the same biometric fingerprint which is used for both Canada and Australia and United Kingdom visa applications. But if this is your first time doing it for any of these countries, then yes, you have to pay that $85, and it is a mandatory requirement. So $85 plus $150 for the visa application comes to 230. But for the sake of budget, let's peg that at 250. Now, before you submit your visa application, or in addition to as part of the additional documents that you'll be submitting for your visa application, I usually recommend that you do a police background check, um, or a criminal check, as it may be called in some places. And also, depending on where you're applying for that, where you're applying for that could be between $65 to $100. For example, in Canada, it could be anywhere from $65 to $100, depending on which city or municipality you're applying from. And this is simply because each municipality or city has its own police service, and they tend to price things differently. So, depending on the country you're applying from, it could cost you up to $100, maybe less, for your police background check or your security check. Add that to admission application fee, visa application fee, and then yeah, a lot of people would usually do an advanced medical exam prior to submitting their visa applications. I don't recommend that because for Canada visa, usually, if once the visa processing office has done all their background checks and are convinced that you are a potential visa candidate, they will send you a request to complete a medical exam. So I usually don't recommend for visa applicants, Canadian visa applicants, to do their medical exam in advance. You could just wait until you hear back from the visa processing office. That time, you know for sure that you'll be guaranteed a visa once your medical exam checks out, right? So you could hold on that expense and wait till you hear back from the visa processing office. Unless, of course, you're working in a very short time, you have a very short timeline. Maybe your admission came out very late and you don't have enough time between when you started your visa application process till when school resumes, then maybe you might be in a rush and you may want to do your medical exam in advance. But that said, the medical exam could cost you, in Canada, it's about $250. That is the fee charged by CIC panel physicians, and CIC panel physicians, physicians that are recognized and recommended by Citizenship and Immigration Canada. And it would be the same no matter where you're applying for the Canadian visa from. Your medical exam would have to be completed by a CIC panel physician. And you can find that information out by going on the CIC website to check for your region or your country and find the contacts for the CIC panel physicians available. So, guys, these are the composition of the preliminary expense. So, again, admission application fee could range between $95 to $150 max, but we are pegging it at $150. Your police background check at $100. Add that to the $150, that comes to $250. And we know for certain that your visa application and biometric together comes to $235, but we are rounding that up to $250. Add that to the previous $250 for the admission and police background check, and it comes to $500. And then finally, your medical exam fee, which is the $250. Add that up, and you come up to a total of $750. So, really, this is the preliminary expense. Again, I know there are additional expenses, but these other expenses you don't have to worry about because, as we have recently found out, a court in Canada has ruled that students are not required as part of are not required to make their tuition payments in advance as part of visa requirements. So you don't have to worry about making a tuition payments in advance. You could wait till you arrive in the country before making that tuition commitment. So yeah, really, all you have to spend from your home country till you get a Canadian visa and arrive in Canada. Well, we haven't talked about flight tickets, but that's something that could come up later. Um, but yeah, so all that you need to worry about, the preliminary budget you need to work with, is $750. So guys, applying to come study in Canada could be way cheaper than you would expect or than most people think. And I say this because a lot of people use like an iPhone 13 or iPhone 14, which is way more expensive than $750. So if you have plans or have plans to study in Canada, and for some reason you find it unaffordable, but you can afford like an iPhone 14, congratulations. I think you can foot the bill for the preliminary expenditure. Guys, thanks again for watching today's video. So in the future update, we will talk about the second part of the expense involved, which is the secondary expense, as I mentioned. And again, that would be all the expenses you would have to worry about once you arrive in the country, or that would take you from leaving your home country till when you arrive in Canada. And again, do not be discouraged by the tuition fee, the amount of the tuition fee. There are definitely strategies one could use to work around that expense. I believe anybody who wishes to study in Canada, as far as you can afford to foot that preliminary bill of $750, really, we know that it's not going to be up to $750, but for the sake of budget, we are putting in a bit more margin just so you find no surprises. For as long as you can foot that $750 for the preliminary expenditure, I believe you can afford to study in Canada, because really that's what you have to worry about to get your visa to come to Canada. So once again, thanks a lot for watching today's video. I hope to see you in my future videos. Please like, share, and subscribe in case you haven't already, and have yourself a good one.